I always thought family loyalty was a given, something solid, unshakable, something you didn't have to question. Especially when it came to your own mother. I mean, how could you not trust the woman who brought you into this world? But life has a brutal way of reminding you that blood isn't always synonymous with love. And sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who hold the dagger. My name is Samira. I'm 25, and for most of my life, I've been the responsible one. The overachiever. The planner. While my half-brother, Jamal, 3 years younger than me, floated through life like rules and consequences were optional. We share a mother but not a father. His dad left years ago. Mine died when I was 10. That loss turned me into someone who clung tightly to what little stability remained. My car was part of that. It wasn't brand new, not even close, but I bought it myself after saving for 2 years while working 2 jobs during college. It was my independence, my escape, my achievement. We lived in a modest home just outside Atlanta, the kind with cracked sidewalks and nosy neighbors. Mom worked as a receptionist at a dental office. She was the kind of woman who believed in appearances, neat hair, pressed clothes, and always smiling, even if her world was crumbling. She loved Jamal openly, visibly, like a light she couldn't hide. With me, her love was quieter, more distant, like something that needed to be earned. It started on a Wednesday. That day is etched in my memory because it felt off. I came home from work, tossed my bag on the couch, and went to the driveway. My car wasn't there. At first, I thought maybe Mom had moved it to sweep the driveway, or Jamal had taken it to the store like he sometimes did, though never without asking. But there was no text, no note, nothing. I walked inside, heart ticking a little faster. "Mom," I called, pushing open her bedroom door. She was folding laundry, her movements slow and calculated. "Where's my car?" I asked casually, trying not to sound accusatory. She didn't look up. "Oh, Jamal needed it. He's out with some friends." I frowned. He didn't ask me. He was in a rush. I figured it was fine. It wasn't fine. But I swallowed my irritation, chalking it up to a one-time miscommunication. Jamal had a history of taking what he wanted, especially if it came from me. But I kept quiet. That's what I always did. Internalized it, buried it. That night, when Jamal returned, he didn't even apologize. Just tossed me the keys and shrugged. "Thanks, sis," he said with that cocky grin he always wore when he got away with something. I went to bed that night with a twist in my stomach, a feeling I couldn't shake. Something felt wrong. And it wasn't just about the car. It was the way Mom avoided my eyes. The way Jamal acted like he owned the world. Like they were in on something I wasn't. The next morning, I noticed my car keys weren't on the hook where I always left them. I checked my purse, my jacket pockets, under the couch cushions. Nothing. "Have you seen my keys?" I asked Mom over breakfast. She sipped her coffee, calm as ever. "No. Maybe you misplaced them." Jamal smirked behind his cereal bowl. I didn't want to make a scene. I had a big presentation at work that day. But I felt this itch inside me, this gnawing sense of being pushed aside. I took the bus to work, first time in months. I told myself I was overreacting, that I was just stressed, that it was just a bad week. That Friday, things shifted again. I came home early, an unexpected half day from work, and saw Jamal pulling into the driveway in my car. But something was different. The car had new rims. The seats were changed. A new stereo system blasted from the dashboard. It didn't even look like my car anymore. I walked up slowly, eyebrows furrowed. "What the hell did you do to my car?" He laughed, stepping out like he was showing off a trophy. "Your car?" "Nah, sis. This beauty's mine now." I turned to my mom, who stood at the doorway with her arms crossed, silent. "What's going on?" My voice trembled. "Calm down, Samira," Mom said flatly. "We sold the car." My ears rang. "We?" She looked away. "You've been doing fine. You have a good job." Jamal needed something reliable to get him started. Started with what? He's not even working. He's trying. He's turning over a new leaf. He needs support, Samira. My hands clenched at my sides. "So, You just sold my car? Without even asking me? Her face tightened. I'm your mother. I have every right. No, I whispered, voice cracking. You had no right. That car was mine. She didn't respond. I felt like I was suffocating. Betrayal clawed at my chest. I had ignored so many signs. The favoritism, the gaslighting, the constant excuses for Jamal's recklessness. I had excused them all because I wanted to believe that love would eventually balance the scales. But love, as I was learning, wasn't always fair. I stood there in the driveway, the sun setting behind me, casting everything in long shadows. My car, no, Jamal's now, sat there like a stolen crown. And I realized in that moment that something had snapped. That this wasn't just about a car. It was about what I meant to her and what I didn't. And I knew I wasn't going to let it go. After that day, something inside me shifted. The kind of shift you don't notice all at once, but feel like a slow burn, like when the sky turns gray before a storm. I wasn't the same girl anymore. I couldn't be. I started paying attention, really paying attention. And what I saw shattered what little illusion of fairness I had left in that house. It wasn't just the car. That was only the beginning. Over the next week, Jamal strutted around like he had won the lottery. New clothes started appearing in his closet, designer labels with price tags I knew he couldn't afford. I overheard him talking on the phone about dripping in gear and picking up the homies in his ride. He even had the nerve to throw a house party one night when I was working late, blasting music so loud the neighbors called the cops. When I walked through the front door and saw a living room full of strangers and smoke in the air, I nearly lost it. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted. Jamal laughed, handing a drink to some girls sitting on my mom's couch. "Relax, sis. It's just a little fun." That was his answer to everything. Mom didn't even bat an eye. She came home, saw the chaos, and just sighed, mumbling something about boys being boys. But if it had been me, she would have had a meltdown, grounded me, given me the silent treatment for a week. The double standard wasn't just glaring, it was blinding. So I started digging. I waited until everyone was out one day and went into Jamal's room. Normally, I would never violate someone's privacy like that. But after they violated my trust, all bets were off. I wasn't expecting to find much. Maybe some receipts, a hidden stash of cash, anything to prove he was spending money he didn't earn. What I found was worse. Tucked inside an old shoebox under his bed was a folder. Inside were vehicle documents, title transfer papers for my car. Signed, stamped, dated. And right there, in perfect ink, was my mother's signature. I stood there in his messy room, documents shaking in my hands, pulse racing. She hadn't just allowed it. She had orchestrated it. She'd forged my release. My hands went numb. That car was registered under my name. She didn't even have legal authority to sell it. But somehow, she had done it anyway. I felt sick. When they came home that evening, I didn't say anything. I didn't scream or accuse. No, I played it cool. I smiled, nodded, even made dinner. I needed time to think, really think. Because what I was planning next needed to be careful, precise. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. And I wanted to make sure they never saw it coming. That night, I sat in my room staring at the ceiling. My thoughts spun like a carousel of anger, disbelief, and grief. I couldn't understand how the woman who raised me could betray me like this. How she could look me in the eyes and lie without flinching. And all for what? To coddle Jamal? To feed his sense of entitlement? But maybe, deep down, I'd always known. Growing up, Mom always had a soft spot for him. Even when he got into fights, got expelled, or blew through every chance handed to him. She called it protecting him. I called it enabling. With me, she was strict. With him, she was forgiving. It wasn't just favoritism, it was a pattern. And now that I was old enough to see it clearly, I realized it wasn't going to change. The betrayal hurt. But it also gave me clarity. So I started preparing. I dug through my email to find the old car purchase agreement. I downloaded every bank statement from the past 2 years. I took pictures of the forged title documents. I even contacted the notary listed on the paperwork. Turns out, she had notarized it under false pretenses. I gathered everything. Evidence.
Proof. Facts.
And then, I visited my father's old lawyer. Mr. Granger was in his late 60s now, gray-haired, sharp as ever. He had handled my dad's estate when he passed. He looked surprised to see me but welcomed me in like family. I told him everything, every gritty detail. He listened, quietly, and when I finished, he leaned back, tapped his chin, and said, "You have a strong case. But are you sure you want to go down this road?" I nodded without hesitation. She stole from me, lied to me. This isn't just about a car. It's about respect, about boundaries. He agreed to help. And just like that, the wheels were in motion. Back at home, things continued as if nothing had happened. Jamal kept partying. Mom kept enabling. And I kept pretending to be the obedient daughter, quiet, unbothered, polite. But inside, I was watching. And then one afternoon, something else happened that made my blood run cold. I came home early again, another shift swap, and overheard a conversation in the kitchen. They didn't know I was there. "She's always been the golden one," Mom said. "Acting like she's better than you." But I fixed that, didn't I? Jamal laughed. "Yeah, you did. And once I get my business going, I'll pay you back. Promise." "Don't worry about it," Mom replied. "You're the one who's going places." Something cracked in me. Hearing those words, so casual, so dismissive, was like a slap. I was just a tool to her, a means to an end. And in that moment, I stopped mourning the mother I thought I had and started preparing to take back what was mine. I walked upstairs like I hadn't heard a thing. But inside? Oh, I was ready now. The breaking point came on a Thursday. Funny how life doesn't always give you a warning. No thunderclap. No dramatic music cue. Just a regular day that turns into the one you'll never forget. I came home to find Jamal sitting on the front porch, face buried in his phone, legs kicked up on the small table I'd bought with my first paycheck. He looked up at me with that smug little grin of his, the same one he wore the day I saw him drive off in my car. "You look stressed," he chuckled, not even looking away from the screen. "Long day." I said nothing and walked past him. Inside, Mom was cooking dinner like it was 1955. The smell of fried chicken filled the air, but it didn't feel warm. It felt staged, like a scene in a sitcom, but everyone had already forgotten their lines. "Dinner will be ready soon," she said without looking up.
I didn't respond.
I went straight to my room and closed the door. That's when I got the text. From Jamal. "You might want to start taking the bus again. Car insurance is due." Oh wait, my car now, faced with tears of joy. That was it. The last straw. I stared at that message and something snapped inside me. No more pretending. No more waiting. No more letting them twist the knife. It was time. I walked back downstairs and stood at the kitchen entrance. Mom looked up and froze. Jamal, hearing the footsteps, wandered in from the living room with that stupid smirk still plastered on his face. "I have something to say," I said calmly. They both looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Sit down." They hesitated, but something in my voice must have told them I wasn't playing. They sat. I pulled out a folder, my folder. Neatly organized. Every document highlighted, tabbed, and paper-clipped. I laid it out on the table one by one like I was dealing cards. "Here's the original bill of sale for the car," I began. "Paid in full. In my name." Mom shifted. Jamal rolled his eyes. "This is the title transfer you signed, illegally. And here's the statement from the notary, who confirmed she was misled. This here," I pointed, "is your handwriting. You forged my signature." Mom opened her mouth, but I held up my hand. "Don't. Not this time." Then I turned to Jamal. "You knew. You bragged about it. I have text messages, photos, even recordings. You've been driving around in stolen property. That's a felony." Jamal scoffed, but it was weak. He looked at Mom, then back at me. "You wouldn't." "Oh, but I would," I said, eyes locked on his. "And I already have." Their faces dropped. "I filed a report with the police this morning. My lawyer has everything. If I wanted to, I could have you both arrested by the weekend. Silence. Mom's lip trembled. Sweetheart. No, I interrupted. Don't call me that. You stopped being my mother the day you sold me out for him. Jamal stood up, voice rising. You're doing all this over a car? No, I said sharply. I'm doing this because of the lies.
The disrespect.
The years of treating me like I was less. Like I was just convenient. He laughed bitterly. You think you're better than us? No, I replied. But I know I deserve better than this. Then came the final blow. I also spoke to Dad's lawyer, I added. Turns out there's a trust fund in my name. One that you conveniently forgot to tell me about. Mom went pale. He said it was supposed to be given to me at 21. You've been sitting on it, using it, probably to help fund your little golden boy's lifestyle. She tried to speak again, but I was done listening. Effective immediately, I said. I'm moving out. I've already signed a lease. And once the legal process is over, I want nothing to do with either of you. The room was heavy with stunned silence. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just turned and walked away because the power was mine now. And they knew it. That night I packed my things. Not much, just what I needed. A few clothes, my documents, my laptop. Everything else could rot. Jamal tried to block the doorway once, but I stared him down. You lay one finger on me, I said coldly, and you'll be in cuffs by morning. He stepped aside. I walked out with my head high, not looking back. Not even once. As I drove away, in my reclaimed car, thanks to a court order, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. Because the truth is, sometimes your breaking point isn't about destruction. It's about rebirth. The moment you stop asking for love from people who only know how to take, and start giving that love to yourself instead. Freedom tasted sweet, but I wasn't done. Some people think walking away is enough. And maybe it is for them. But this wasn't just about walking away. This was about justice. About making sure they knew exactly what they lost when they decided I didn't matter. So I planned. Quietly. Carefully. I wasn't out to ruin them. I was out to rebuild myself. And make sure they had front row seats to the show. The first move? Reclaim my identity. Not just legally, but emotionally. I changed my number, blocked them on every platform, and removed my name from every shared account. I wasn't going to let them keep tabs on me. I wanted them to sit in silence and wonder what I was up to. Next came the career move. I'd always had a passion for design. Even as a kid, I used to sketch clothes, rearrange rooms, create mood boards on the back of my school notebooks. But that dream was always called a hobby by Mom.
Jamal?
He'd laugh at the idea of me being a serious creative. I enrolled in a 6-month business incubator program, using a portion of the trust fund they never wanted me to know about. The rest? I moved it into a private investment account and hired an advisor. I was learning how money worked, not just earning it, but growing it, something they never taught me. By month 3, my design brand had a name, a logo, and a website. By month 5, I had secured 3 clients and was working on a capsule collection. And by month 6, I was invited to showcase at a local fashion expo. The timing couldn't have been more poetic. You see, Jamal had recently lost his job. The promotion he'd always bragged about turned out to be a temporary assignment. And with the car legally back in my possession and the trust fund revealed, Mom's world began to unravel. Word got out. People whispered. They started asking questions. And you know what happens in small circles? Gossip spreads like wildfire. Did you hear about what she did? I heard she exposed them both. She's doing so well now and they're struggling. Oh, but I wasn't cruel.
No.
I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I didn't flaunt. I just lived. Loudly. Authentically. Successfully. That was the real revenge. But one moment truly sealed the deal. The night of the fashion expo, I arrived in a sleek black jumpsuit I designed myself. Hair pinned back, gold jewelry, a subtle smoky eye. I walked into that venue like I owned it because for once I did. The crowd was buzzing. Buyers, influencers, press.
My designs were on display.
People complimented the stitching, the innovation, the vision. And then I saw them. In the back.
Mom. Jamal.
Standing awkwardly near the punch table. I hadn't invited them. They must have seen the flyers. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they wanted to see if I'd fall flat on my face. But I didn't. When the announcer called my name, the room erupted in applause. I stepped up to the mic, heart steady. "I want to thank everyone who believed in me," I said, eyes scanning the crowd. Even when others told me I was dreaming too big. Even when my voice was silenced, my worth questioned, and my property stolen, I still rose. I didn't look at them directly, but I felt the heat of their stares. I continued. "I stand here not just as a designer, but as a survivor. A reminder that no matter who tries to erase your name, you can always write it back, bolder." The applause was thunderous. After the show, people rushed up to me, shaking hands, exchanging cards, praising my work. Mom and Jamal didn't come near me. They couldn't. They just stood there, like ghosts from a past I had finally buried. Later that night, I got a message request from Mom. "I'm proud of you. Please call me." I didn't reply. Then Jamal. "We should talk. Things are different now."
Delete.
Because here's the thing about payback. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be messy. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Not to hurt them, but to heal yourself. I went home that night, lit a candle, and poured myself a glass of wine. Not to celebrate them seeing me, but to celebrate finally seeing myself. Because the greatest plot twist? It wasn't about what I did to them. It was about what I did for me. I had rewritten the story. And I wasn't done yet. You know what's funny? People think revenge is this loud, explosive thing, full of screaming matches, courtroom drama, or viral internet moments. But real revenge? The kind that shakes people to their core? It's quiet, elegant, intentional. The sweetest revenge is becoming untouchable in a world that once dismissed you. After the Fashion Expo, everything changed. Orders came pouring in. A celebrity stylist reached out after seeing my designs in a blog feature. I started getting tagged in stories from women proudly wearing my pieces, women who said my clothes made them feel bold, seen, powerful. I wasn't just building a brand anymore. I was building a legacy, and that shook them. I started receiving messages from old friends, extended relatives, even people who once rolled their eyes when I talked about my goals. "We always knew you'd make it."
No, they didn't.
But now they saw what I always knew. I was never meant to stay in the shadows they shoved me into. I was always meant to rise. Then came the media piece. A local lifestyle magazine wanted to do a profile on young creatives disrupting the fashion scene. And guess who they chose as the cover story?
Me.
The photo shoot was surreal. I stood in a sunlit studio, surrounded by racks of my own designs, a makeup artist dabbing my cheeks, a camera clicking away while the editor asked questions. "What motivates your work?" she asked. I smiled. "Pain," I said. But not in a sad way. More like the transformation of pain. Turning it into something beautiful. Something wearable. Something strong. When the issue dropped, the response was wild. I woke up to hundreds of notifications. Sales spiked. My site crashed. I hired a tech team, a virtual assistant, and even signed a deal with a boutique in New York. It was happening, but it was what happened after that shook me most. A letter came in the mail, handwritten, from my mother. It wasn't long, just a few paragraphs. She apologized, said she missed me, said she was proud, said she didn't know how to undo the damage. But here's the thing, some damage isn't meant to be undone. It's meant to be rebuilt over. Stronger, brighter, unbreakable.
I didn't reply.
Not because I was bitter, but because I was free. True freedom doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like letting go without anger. Just peace. Then one afternoon I saw Jamal. It was at a local market. I was picking up flowers for a shoot. He looked different.
Tired.
Slouched. That sparkle of ego?
Gone.
He spotted me and froze. I kept walking. He followed. Hey, he said, almost whispering. I turned, calm as ever. Hi. He fumbled with his words. I saw the magazine. You look successful. I am, I said. He nodded. I just wanted to say, I didn't think you'd actually make it. I was wrong. That made me pause. Not because I needed the validation, I didn't, but because I realized something in that moment. He never expected me to rise without him. You didn't have to believe in me, I said. I believed in myself. And I walked away. No mic drop. No dramatic insult. Just grace. That's the thing about real power. You don't need to prove it. You just are. I started giving talks at women's shelters, sharing my story. Not just about the betrayal, but about the bounce back. The choice to rebuild. I saw tears in the eyes of women who'd been left behind, ignored, discarded. But I also saw hope. They saw themselves in me. I wasn't just building fashion anymore. I was building fire. Then came the biggest opportunity yet, a chance to collaborate with a global brand for an empowerment-themed campaign. They flew me to Paris.
Paris.
I stood under the Eiffel Tower, wind in my hair, camera flashes popping. Me, the girl who had once been told she was too sensitive, too dramatic, not worth the investment. I thought about Mom.
Jamal.
How they tried to replace me, erase me.
But now?
Now I was international. The world had become my runway. And I hadn't stepped on anyone to get here. I'd simply risen above. That right there is the sweetest revenge. Because success isn't just about money. It's about joy.
Peace.
Confidence. It's about walking into a room and not needing to prove a thing, because your energy says it all. I remember standing on the balcony of my hotel suite in Paris that night, a glass of champagne in hand. Looking out at the city lights, I whispered to myself, "You did it." Not because I'd beat them, but because I'd become me. And that was everything. Life has a strange way of circling back, doesn't it? You spend years running from the pain, the betrayal, the versions of yourself that were rejected, only to realize that everything you tried to escape was preparing you for exactly where you were meant to be. It all came full circle one warm spring evening. I was back in my hometown. Not because I needed to be, but because I chose to be. I had been invited to speak at a women's empowerment conference at the local university. The same one I once passed by with envy, wondering if I'd ever be the kind of woman who got to walk those halls, be heard, be seen. Now I was the keynote speaker. The auditorium was packed. Rows of young women, some eager-eyed, some jaded, some quietly broken, stared at me with curiosity, with hope. I took a deep breath before I stepped onto that stage. Not out of nerves, but reverence. Reverence for every tear I cried in silence. For every time I stitched through heartbreak. For every moment I stood tall when it would have been easier to fold. I opened my speech with a story. The story of a woman who was betrayed by the people who were supposed to love her most. A woman who had to lose everything to find herself. A woman who didn't get revenge by yelling or begging or proving a point, but by building a world where she didn't need anyone's approval to shine. And when I said, that woman was me, the room went silent. That thick, sacred kind of silence. The kind that means, we feel you. After the talk, a line of women waited to hug me, thank me, tell me I'd given them the courage to dream again. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't moved, but because I'd already cried the tears. Now it was time to water others. That same evening, something unexpected happened. I was walking through the campus garden when I saw a familiar figure seated on a bench. My mother. She looked older. Not just in her face, but in her posture. Like the years had finally caught up with her heart. She stood when she saw me. I heard you were speaking. I didn't come inside, but I wanted to see you. I nodded, keeping my emotions steady. I read about you, she said quietly. I see you everywhere now. You've become incredible. I didn't respond. What do you say to someone who broke you, then watched you bloom from a distance? She continued. I've had time to think, and I know there's nothing I can say that will erase what I did. I just want you to know. I see it now. I see you. That hit different. Not because I needed her to say it, but because, for the first time, she wasn't trying to control me. She was simply acknowledging me. I don't hate you, I said gently. But I don't need you to understand my worth anymore. I know who I am. Her eyes welled up. You sound so strong. I am. We didn't hug. We didn't cry together. There was no fairy tale reconciliation. Just peace. That's what full circle looks like. It's not always a movie moment. Sometimes it's just two people finally standing in truth, even if they can't stand in relationship. A few days later, I went to visit my old neighborhood. The house I once lived in had been sold. New owners. New paint. But I stood across the street and stared at it for a long time. Not in pain.
In awe.
Because that little house once held all my dreams. All my loneliness. All the versions of me that didn't know she would one day make it out. And here I was.
Whole.
Thriving. Transformed. My phone buzzed. It was my agent. You've been invited to speak at the Global Women's Summit, she said. And Vogue wants to do a feature on your life story. I smiled. Not because of the fame, but because of the irony. The same story they once tried to erase had become the story that would inspire the world. One more thing happened that week. A letter arrived. This time from Jamal.
Typed.
Formal. Polite. He said he'd seen the Paris campaign. Said he was happy for me. Said he hoped I'd found peace. But what caught my attention was the last line. I realize now you were never the side character. You were the author. That right there? That's when I knew I'd won. Not just over him. Not just over my mother. But over every doubt I ever let into my heart. Because the truth is, revenge doesn't look like payback. It looks like power. It looks like choosing yourself, loudly, proudly, without apology. It looks like rising. And now I live in a sunlit apartment filled with art, music, and fabrics from all over the world. My designs are worn by people I once idolized. My name is whispered in rooms I used to dream about. But most importantly, I sleep in peace. Because I never lowered myself to get ahead. I built something higher. And if you've ever been betrayed, belittled, or replaced, let me tell you this. You are not disposable. You are not too much. You are not meant to shrink. You are meant to build.
To rise.
To rewrite the story, your way. Because in the end, it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And when that full circle moment comes, you'll feel it in your soul. Like the click of a lock finally opening. The world, your world, expanding. And you, standing at the center of it all. Powerful.
Poised.
Unstoppable.